Me, 23-year-old female, and my husband, 22-year-old male, got married a year and a half ago. Before we got married, I met his sister, who is 30 years old, only twice, despite the fact that my now husband lived with her. She seemed friendly and like every other person. My husband never really talked about her, though. When we got married, I moved in with my husband, his sister, and his mother temporarily. Before I moved in, my husband low-key warned me about his sister and that they fight a lot. I didn't really care because I know siblings are going to be siblings. But Lord, did I underestimate the situation. My sister-in-law is the worst person I have ever met in my entire life. She is a notorious liar, she's addicted to arguing, and she has the mental and physical abilities of a 10-year-old. When we all lived together initially, she argued with my mother-in-law and husband only. She annoyed the hell out of me, but I never gave in to her provocations, so we never fought. Still, it was very boring to live with her when all she did was start fights in our home. I'm also a stay-at-home wife while everyone else works, and she makes my housework 100 times harder because she's so dang dirty. Eventually, my husband and I started looking for a new place to move in together, and his mom looked for her own place as well. We all kept telling my sister-in-law that she needs to start looking for her own apartment too, because we will all eventually move out, and the house we lived in is way too big and expensive for herself. She never even tried to look for a place and assumed we wouldn't find one for ourselves. Well, 3 months ago, my mother-in-law moved out, and 2 months ago, my husband and I moved out. We were forced to take my sister-in-law with us because she obviously didn't have a place of her own to stay. Initially, the deal was that she will live with us temporarily until she finds her own place. But she, again, never started looking for one. Eventually, she said she is going to move in with her boyfriend this June, so it doesn't make sense for her to move to her own place, just to move into her boyfriend's a month or two later. We thought that was reasonable, and that if we made it this far, we can endure a few more months with her. Well, the most recent huge drama event had me in tears for 2 days, and even though it's been like 3 weeks, I still haven't gotten over it. Firstly, I want to mention that I'm pregnant, so all this happened while I'm pregnant and feel like shoot anyway. Basically, she was on FaceTime with her stepsister, 10 years old or something, while I was in my room doing something important. She knocked on my door, but I couldn't open at that time. A few minutes later, I rushed out and asked what she wanted, but she was no longer on the phone. She said, "Oh, I just wanted to show you how happy stepsister is about the bracelet you gifted her." I was confused because I never gifted the kid any bracelet, so I asked what bracelet she's talking about. To which my sister-in-law replied, Yeah, it's fine. I know it's the bracelet I gave you." My sister-in-law gave me a bracelet once, and I still have it, so I showed her the bracelet and explained that I never gave it away, and I never even gave any bracelet, or in fact, any gift at all, to her stepsister. She said that she gave me 2 bracelets, and I gave one of them to her stepsister, and that if I don't like her gifts, I should just tell her so she will stop gifting me things. I again explained that it's not true, but she kept dismissing me and kept interrupting me. Eventually, I swore to God that it's not true, but she still wouldn't believe me. I noticed she was starting a fight, so I said, "You know what? Whatever." I said that I need to go back into my room to continue my class. When I went into my room, it was 2:27 p.m., and my class started at 2:30 p.m., so I went on WhatsApp in the meantime. She saw that I was online and texted me stuff like, "So you're lying again? You said you need to start your class, but now you're online on WhatsApp. Instead of solving the misunderstanding, you lie and go to your room to avoid me." She kept messaging nonsense nonstop for like 30 minutes until I decided to call my husband. I explained everything to him and how she won't leave me alone now. He called her and calmly asked what's going on, and then she completely freaked out. She started yelling into the phone so loudly and said that I was disrespectful, that she only asked me about the bracelet, and I immediately started yelling at her. My husband, knowing how patient I am and knowing I never yelled at anyone before, didn't believe her. Also, because she is, as mentioned, a notorious liar, She yelled about how he forgot his family, only cares about his wife, and doesn't see how disrespectful I am. She came knocking on my door, yelling, "Open the door," and when I did, she put my husband on speaker and said to me, tell him that you yelled at me." I kept starting to speak, and she kept interrupting me by yelling, tell him. This went on for about 7 to 8 times of her interrupting me every time I tried to say just one word, until I snapped. I was shaking like I never have before and had cramps in my stomach. I then really yelled, "I wouldn't have to yell if you stopped interrupting me." The look on her face completely changed. Suddenly, she looked happy and satisfied and walked away saying to my husband, "See, this is how she yelled before too," which made me even angrier. And I yelled again that she's a liar and I don't want her at my home anymore and that she should pack her bags and get the frick out of here. I felt like I had crossed a line. I never did something like that before, but it was like I blacked out, and I was nervous about what my husband was thinking, but thankfully he was completely on my side and understood my outburst. I felt so bad that I told my mother-in-law about it. I was sobbing on the phone, and she said that it's normal that eventually I would snap because of her bad behavior. All of this happened 3 weeks ago. She acts like nothing happened, but I keep avoiding her, and I have her blocked everywhere because I don't want to get her annoying messages. Now, my husband is saying that it's childish of me to have her blocked, and that I should just unblock her since we live together anyway. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I assume she isn't contributing to your home in any way, both financially and definitely not respectfully. I would just kick her out now rather than have another 5 miserable months ahead of you. Her own mother didn't bring her with her, so why do you have to be stuck with her? And you know how hard she is to live with, so even if she moves out with her boyfriend, realistically, how long will she be there before he kicks her out? And then, where is she going to land, only right back on your doorstep? Your husband knows exactly what she's like, has put up with her crap, and now he expects his pregnant wife to... Why can't she move in with her boyfriend now? Why does she have to wait for 6 months? Comment 2. Now my husband is saying that it's childish of me to have her blocked and that I should just unblock her, and he should throw that jerk out of your home. If you can, I would temporarily stay with family or friends and tell your husband you'll be back when sister-in-law moves out. Maybe that will provide him with some motivation to kick her to the curb. I think she is lying about moving in with her boyfriend, and your baby does not need to be around someone like her. Arguing with you until you are in tears and pain from her non-stop verbal attack is completely over the top and needs to stop immediately. Not the idiot. Now, for the update. A lot has happened since my last post, and I've got to say, things have been pretty intense around here. So 3 days ago, my sister-in-law, who's been living with us because she didn't find her own place, did something that made my jaw drop. Remember how I mentioned she was supposed to move in with her boyfriend in June? Well, turns out there is no boyfriend. She made him up. We found out when my husband decided to call this so-called boyfriend to discuss when she'd be moving out. After some digging, we discovered she'd been lying about him for months. She had no intention of leaving our place. But that's not even the half of it. 2 days ago, I caught her snooping through my personal stuff. I walked into my room, and there she was, rummaging through my drawers. When I confronted her, she had the audacity to say she was just looking for a pen. A pen in my underwear drawer? Yeah, right. Now let's rewind a bit to give you some context about her snooping habits. Before we moved out of the old house, she had a history of taking things that didn't belong to her. My husband once caught her wearing his watch that had gone missing. She claimed she found it and was just keeping it safe for him. So, her excuse about looking for a pen was just laughable. Back to the present. After the snooping incident, I was fuming. I told my husband, and he was furious. He confronted her, and she started crying, saying she felt left out and just wanted to feel close to us. It was a pathetic attempt at gaining sympathy, but my husband didn't buy it. The next day, things escalated even further. I was in the kitchen, and she came in acting all sweet, asking if I needed help. I was wary but let her stay. Big mistake. She started going on about how she's trying to be better and how we should all be a family. Then she accidentally spilled a whole pot of sauce all over the floor. And guess what? She just stood there expecting me to clean it up. Now let's not forget, I'm pregnant and already dealing with a lot. My patience was wearing thin. I asked her to clean it up, and she threw a fit, saying I was treating her like a maid. It was like she was trying to push my buttons on purpose. But here's the kicker: the misunderstanding that happened today. My husband came home from work early and found us arguing in the kitchen. He heard her shout, "Why can't you just be happy for me and my boyfriend?" He was confused and asked what she was talking about. She spun this tale about how I was jealous of her relationship and that I didn't want her to move out because I'd miss her. I was shocked. I mean, we just found out she didn't have a boyfriend. My husband looked at me, and I could tell he was trying to piece things together. I quickly explained the truth, and he was relieved. But for a moment, he had doubted me, and that hurt. My fiancé sides with his mom over our first home, so I confront him, but his secret plan to move us out turns everything upside down. I, 26-year-old female, loved my fiancé Jack, 29-year-old male, but unfortunately I realized that he is so much into his family. He is not ready to build his own. We have been together since 2020. He is living next door to his parents. He is on a rental. His house door is 2 steps away from his parents' house. Currently, I don't have any issue with that. But I don't want that house to be our first home. Not only because of his parents. That house has been his bachelor house for like 3 years. Even to this time, every night his friends come over, 3 to 4 guys smoking in that house. Jack is not very good at cleaning, and I already gave up on trying to clean it. I told him that I don't want to live in that house. We spoke a bit and decided not to move my stuff to this house after the wedding, and I was going to come and stay with him regularly, but not completely move into this house. His rent contract was going to end in October, 5 months after the wedding, and the landlord said they don't want to rent it anymore. We were supposed to eventually move elsewhere anyway, but still, I stated that I don't want to live there because that's it. If the landlord changes his mind, I don't want to drop a bomb later on. I wanted him to know that clearly. He said he understood my decision. Together, we came up with this plan. After speaking with me, he went to his mom, told her that I don't want to live next door to her and I will be looking for a new house. Of course, hearing this very boldly like that, she angrily said, "I was going to go to our hometown after your wedding anyway. She won't be living next door to her mother-in-law after the wedding." I don't blame her. What bothers me? I think from now on, Jack and I are a family of our own, and we don't have to share everything happening in our household with our parents. He doesn't understand this. I told him he wasn't supposed to tell her like that. He said he needed to let her know. I told him if he really thinks she should be informed, then he should have told her that we decided to do this together, and it's a decision of us. But instead, he insists that this is my decision, and he won't be telling his mom that he agrees to this decision and it's taken together. And his reason for this is, I don't have any issue living in this house with you. You are the one who doesn't want it. I felt like my new family won't be on its feet with this attitude. I thought my fiancé and I were going to be a team and not let anyone bash any of us down. To me, a married couple is supposed to cover each other's acts so nobody else can see them as fault. I discussed with his family before once. He didn't stand by my side. I chewed that down, but I think this behavior will repeat, and I don't need that. Yesterday, I told him that I am tired of trying to make him a husband that I would like to have. I accept his personality as he revealed recently, and I don't want to marry that person. Am I really the jerk here? If my understanding of family is not correct, I really want to know this. Note 1. There are comments about him being filthy, and how did I accept it? Honestly, he made me get used to it. In the first year of our relationship, I never accepted the behavior and tried to fix it. I openly told him that his house is not clean, but he told me, "It's clean to my standards. If you don't feel like it's not up to your standards, you can clean it yourself." I had no issues with cleaning his house. However, I was coming over every 3 to 4 days. staying 4 to 5 hours. 2 hours of it was going on the cleaning. I was kind of hoping he would see that and maybe take better care of his house so we get to spend some more time. But that didn't happen. I accepted it. This was his way of living and his house. Since I was coming over to the same mess every time, at some point, I told him that I will not be cleaning any further, as it's his house, and he was not helping me to maintain it better. I even offered to call a cleaning lady once a week to clean his house, but he did not accept it either. Basically, in time, he made me get used to that. I did my best to accommodate myself without doing unnecessary cleaning when I come. Note 2. I see the comments related to me trying to change him, and it's not cool. You are right, I may have tendencies to try showing him a different way, the way I prefer things, but as you can see in Note 1, even if it's disgusting to me, I was always ready to accept him as the way he is. Besides the cleaning and constantly having friends over, I didn't try to change anything about him. Me saying to him, I am tired of trying to make him a husband that I would like to have, is because we experienced a situation with his family, with his sister to be exact, where he did not defend me at all once, and later on a very similar experience where he didn't prioritize me but his mom and threw me right under the bus in our decision. The first situation with his family happened in November. We spoke about it in December, and I told him it makes me feel like I'm nothing to him. I told him I want to break up. I told him that I don't accept my husband not prioritizing me. I didn't want to cut it right away. I asked if he would like to try going to couples counseling instead of cutting it completely. He agreed to it, but I think he did it to make me get used to it. He went just to shut my mouth and wait for me to accept his behavior of sharing everything about our relationship. Small update. I spoke to his friend to ask if he is doing okay. He told me that he didn't tell him anything about me yesterday, but he was constantly texting. This friend is very close to him, so if he is not speaking to him, I know he is discussing it with his sister. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Everything you said here makes sense to me. It's surely painful, but you most definitely made the right call. Ultimately, this will be an important growing experience for him too. You seem like a very mature 26-year-old who can take care of herself, and when you've moved on, you'll be able to find someone on your level. Comment 2. A 29-year-old who lives next to his parents and has only been out of the house for 3 years. Presumably, but yeah, that sounds like a mama's boy refusing to grow up. If he can't grasp why he needed to stand with you after all this time, then he isn't going to make much of a husband. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a wild week, and I've got some updates that I think you'll find pretty shocking. So after I told Jack I was tired of trying to make him into the husband I wanted, things got even more intense. I thought that would be the end of it, but boy, was I wrong. Remember how I mentioned Jack's sister? Well, she got involved, and things escalated quickly. Jack's sister, let's call her Emily, has always been the type to stir the pot. Last November, she caused a scene at a family dinner by making some snide remarks about how I was trying to steal Jack away from their family. I was hurt, and Jack did nothing to defend me. That was the first big red flag. Fast forward to this week, Emily decided to confront me directly. She came over to Jack's place while he was out, and we had a heated argument. She accused me of breaking up their family and said that I was selfish for wanting to move away from their parents. I tried to explain that it wasn't about them, but about starting our own life together. She wasn't having any of it. Meanwhile, Jack's behavior was getting weirder. He started spending more time at his parents' house, and I barely saw him. When I did, he was distant and wouldn't look me in the eye. I knew something was up. Turns out, Jack had been talking to his mom about everything. She was upset about the idea of us moving away and had convinced Jack that I was the problem. Jack was torn between me and his family, and it seemed like he was leaning towards them. I was feeling pretty alone in all this until I ran into Jack's friend, the one I mentioned in my last post. He pulled me aside and told me that Jack had been confiding in him after all. Jack was actually devastated about the whole situation and didn't know how to handle it. He was afraid of losing me, but also didn't want to disappoint his family. This friend also let slip that Jack had been looking at new places for us to live, even though he hadn't mentioned it to me. I was shocked. It seemed like Jack was trying to make an effort, but his communication was a disaster. The next day, I decided to confront Jack about everything. I asked him why he hadn't told me about the apartment hunting and why he was avoiding me. That's when he dropped a bombshell. He had found the perfect place for us, a cozy little apartment a few blocks away from his parents. He wanted it to be a surprise. I was floored. Here I was, thinking he was siding with his family against me, when in reality, he was trying to make things right. It was a misunderstanding, but it explained a lot. Jack was just terrible at expressing himself and had been trying to please everyone. But the surprises didn't stop there. As we were talking, Emily burst in, furious. She had overheard our conversation and was convinced I had manipulated Jack into moving. She started yelling, and in the heat of the moment, Jack finally stood up for me. He told Emily that it was his decision too, and that we were a team. It was a jaw-dropping moment. For the first time, Jack was showing that he was on my side. Emily stormed out, and Jack and I were left to process everything. We're still figuring things out, but it feels like we've turned a corner. Jack is starting to understand the importance of us being a united front, and I'm learning to give him space to show his support in his own way. My husband mocks my trauma by messing up our bed so I sleep alone. But when I find a hidden camera, trust is the least of our problems. 30-year-old. My husband is 31 years old. We have been together for 6 years. This is probably a stupid issue to most people, and I understand that. I wish it wasn't such a hang-up for me, but here we are. And yes, I'm in therapy. Now, I was raised by a strict Vietnam veteran stepfather who doubled as a violent alcoholic. He started drinking when he woke up at 4 a.m. If our beds weren't made and neat, me, my siblings, and my mother would all be beaten in a drunken rage or chased out of the house. My mom and brother got the worst of it. She was with him for 5 to 6 years, and the damage was so severe that I still have nightmares as a 30-year-old woman. I still make my bed neat, and it's gotten to a point where I physically cannot handle a messed up bed. My husband is fully aware of this and fully respected it up until about 6 months ago when he started teasing me about it. His way of teasing, in my opinion, is by being overly cruel. Purposely untucking blankets, purposely climbing under the fitted sheet in his sleep. He claims it's in his sleep. If I make the bed and he watches me do it, he will all of a sudden become overwhelmed with how tired he is and lay back down for a half hour or so and mess up the bed and then leave it like that. Body slamming the bed and rolling around in it, saying, so comfy, while laughing and staring at me and then saying, come on, babe, laugh, it's funny. We started sleeping in separate blankets 2 months ago because of different issues. He all of a sudden is trying to sleep frick me every other night, full on snoring and groping me, hands fully down my pants and fishing around with his fingers. But now every single night, multiple times a night, I'm waking up with no blankets on, and both the blankets either on him or on the floor beside him, and him underneath the fitted sheet. My anxiety, doubled, with me genuinely getting pissed at him, has made me decide that I cannot sleep in the same bed as him anymore. I made my space in the guest room. He doesn't go in there and respects my space, but he's trying to make me feel bad about it. He says that he doesn't do this stuff on purpose. But it kind of feels like he is, because all this didn't start happening until he purposely started freaking up the bed to tease me. I am just teasing you. There's no reason to be so upset, babe. But no effort to change or stop when he knows it bothers me. Am I the jerk? My best friend says I'm being ridiculous because our marriage is otherwise picture perfect and I'm going to ruin my marriage. Over this, but I can't handle it. Edited to add, I blatantly stated in my first paragraph that I'm in therapy. I've been through 6 therapists in the past 13 years, and none of them fix the nightmares. Neither do the medications. I have spoken to my husband several times. My communication has been thorough and never-ending. He still insists on teasing me by purposely triggering me and saying it's not a big deal. He did not start doing this until 6-ish months ago, so he knows exactly what he's doing. Also, I'm pretty sure him groping me in my sleep and putting his hands down my pants to feel me up isn't me needing to work through my PTSD either. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the jerk. That sounds awful to deal with. Also, on the bed thing, it's not even about the bed at this point. It's about him intentionally, repeatedly doing something that he knows upsets you specifically because it upsets you. It's not like he doesn't know at this point. He's just being a weenie. If it was genuinely just a funny joke, he would have stopped as soon as he knew it bothered you. If the person you're targeting isn't laughing, it's not funny. That applies to anything. Comment 2. Purposely hurting your partner is never a joke. It doesn't matter if it's bed sheets or destroying property. He has no need to mess up with the sheets. Nobody gets under the fitted sheets unpurposely. He is either being a jerk to make you upset, or he has to get a neurological checkup because behavioral changes can be a sign of a brain tumor. Not the jerk. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post, and I'm back to share the latest developments. It's been a roller coaster, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything. So after I moved into the guest room, things took a turn. My husband, who had been respecting my space, suddenly started showing up at the door of the guest room at odd hours. He'd knock softly, saying he just wanted to check on me, but it felt like he was trying to guilt me into coming back to our bed. I stood my ground, though, because I knew I couldn't go back to that situation. But then, 2 nights ago, I woke up to find him lying on the floor of the guest room, wrapped in one of my blankets. He claimed he had a nightmare and didn't want to be alone. I felt a pang of sympathy, remembering my own nightmares, but I also felt angry. It seemed like another manipulation tactic, especially since he'd never mentioned having nightmares before. The next day, I confronted him about it. I told him that his actions were making me feel unsafe and that I needed him to respect my boundaries. He got defensive, saying that I was overreacting and that he was just trying to be close to me. He even brought up how he'd been there for me during my therapy sessions, listening to me talk about my past and my stepfather's abuse. It felt like he was using my own history against me, and I was furious. We had a huge argument, and he stormed out of the house. He didn't come back until late that night, and when he did, he was different. He was quiet, almost subdued, and he went straight to our bedroom without saying a word. I didn't know what to make of it. The next morning, he left early for work, and I found a note on the kitchen table. It was an apology of sorts. He said he realized he had been insensitive and that he would try to do better. But the note also said that he felt like I was pushing him away and that he didn't know how to fix things between us. I was torn. Part of me wanted to believe that he was sincere, but another part of me was skeptical. After all, he'd said similar things before, and nothing had changed. I decided to give it some time and see if his actions matched his words. But then yesterday, I discovered something that made my blood run cold. I was cleaning the house and found a hidden camera in our bedroom, pointed at the bed. I was shocked and horrified. I confronted him as soon as he got home, and he had the audacity to claim that he'd installed it because he was worried about my safety. He said he wanted to make sure I wasn't hurting myself in my sleep because of my nightmares. I didn't believe him for a second. It felt like a gross invasion of privacy, and I couldn't understand why he would do something like that. We had another fight, and this time I told him I needed some space to think. I went to stay with a friend for the night, leaving him alone in the house. I'm still at my friend's place, trying to figure out what to do next. I feel betrayed and violated, and I don't know if I can trust my husband anymore. It's like he's become a stranger to me, and I'm not sure where we go from here. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.